No, let's just jump into it, Cooper. Thank you, brother, for reaching out to us.
Yeah, man. I like what you guys are doing. I like the consistency. I think it's awesome what you're doing. I think it's just an opportunity for me to catch up with some old friends, but also sort of help. We can help each other,
Of course.
Symbiotic. So yeah, I'm happy to be here, brother.
No, I feel like the last time I saw you was like high school days.
Yeah, man, with that beautiful green-eyed man.
Yo!
Nerds.
What was it? Mutana?
Yeah.
Yeah, look at that dude, bro. He's
Shout out Mutana.
prettiest guy I ever met. That's a handsome fella right there.
It's funny you actually bring him up because we saw him when we went to the cottage. That's
Yeah,
the last time.
a month ago.
Yeah, not even that long ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we still
Yeah.
see like all the old boys and stuff like that. So it's really it's the sick part. We've always been able to keep like our old friendships still kind of around.
That's
Yeah.
good, man. That's
Yeah.
solid. Yeah. I always liked Mutana. He was a good friend in high school. We sort of drifted apart over the years, but as you do with a lot of people in high school. But Mutana was always a cool cat. Like that too.
But for those who don't really know you, do you kind of want to give us a little background?
Yeah, so I work at EasyLine. Like I just work at TD right now. That pays the bills. But I've recently had this sort of resurgence in my life where I took some accountability and really looked inward. And at the time, what I was doing, I was drinking a lot. So I kind of wanted to bring that up here. If someone ever feels that way, if someone's in a rut, I'm a judgment-free dude. I'm the one to talk to about that kind of stuff. I've been there. I've been at the bottom, and now I'm where I'm at. And I'm grateful. I'm happy where I am in life, and happiness is a fleeting emotion. So I try to be grateful more than anything. And I find just taking nothing for granted and having sobriety now. I'm 2 years sober. So
Congratulations.
yeah,
That's
so
big,
that's pretty cool. And it's definitely been an upwards trajectory in my life since then. So to anyone that's sort of in that sort of rut like I was, there's definitely a way out. One of the best. So I read this book that kind of changed my perspective on everything and made quitting alcohol a lot easier this time around, because I had tried to forego it a few times before and I wasn't ever really successful. And I always felt, even when I was stopping, I always felt like bored, I guess.
Are you a business owner, sales rep? Cool.
Spit all that night, you get me?
Or is someone who just wants to learn more about sales? You don't want to miss the biggest mastermind of the year.
On September 13th, some of the best business and sales leaders in the world will be at this event teaching you everything you need to know about business. Through the Uncapped Network, you can get an exclusive 20% coupon code. So type in Uncapped20 down below. We'll see you there.
Let me explain. Guys, September 13th, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m., one of the best, most insane virtual masterminds you've ever had access to. You're going to get 20% off like these guys just said. You're going to have access to some of the top sales trainers, top business owners that have 9-figure exits under their belt, marketers who have 9 figures worth of marketing production under their belt that you're going to have direct access to for multiple hours with Q&As so you can ask them questions, get insights, get training that you need to scale your business. Every speaker that we announce, the price goes up. Speakers have already been announced, so you've already missed price breaks. The price is continuing to go up every 3 to 4 days. Take the coupon code that these guys just gave you, go to the link, get your slot, and we'll see you in the room.
Yeah. Like you always kind of in your conscience knew that you needed to stop, but it was just a battle back and forth, right? That's like with a lot of addictions in general, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so I read this book called The Illustrated Easy Way to Stop Drinking by Alan Carr. And it was just a complete paradigm shift for how my perspective was towards alcohol, to the point that now I can be around it. It doesn't bother me. I have no desire to partake in it. And I think the biggest contributing factor to that is just how far I've come and how much my life has improved. I'm a lot happier. like I said, a lot more grateful.
Yeah.
And
what was it about that book specifically? Because I feel like, like a lot of people want to change, but like it seemed like something really hit you.
Yeah, well, to try and pinpoint one specific thing would be very hard, but just, the way that it's proposed to us and stuff too, right? Like there's almost no way around it. You watch a YouTube video, there's an ad for Bacardi, you watch anything like that, and it's almost unavoidable. And it shows you typically in these commercials, the best time is when you're having drinks with your friends and stuff like that. Never shows the disturbing and just sad parts. True. Where it's like, I'm sitting in a basement just drinking by myself, playing video games. I remember one time, and I'm sure people who drink relate to this. That was my thing. I would have a few drinks. I'd just play video games or whatever. And I remember one time I woke up the next day and logged back into the game. I was like, I did this quest. I don't remember jack shit from this quest. I'm like, what the fuck? Who was this guy? I don't know anything. So I had to reload a save and stuff. But yeah, I enjoy drinking quite a bit, but then it loses its value. It wasn't as fun for me anymore. And so after a particularly wild bachelor weekend for my friend's wedding, I sort of sent it, as a lot of alcoholics call it, their last hoorah, which is like where you just go balls to the wall. And then after that weekend, and the funny thing was I was intending on my last day drinking being his wedding, but I read that book after that weekend, and it was so paradigm shifting, as I said earlier, that I just, from that day forward, I was just like, no, I'm done. I'm good.
Yeah, wow.
And ever since then, I've just been happier and like I said.
How did your friends take that, or your family members, when they're like, oh, Cooper, let's get drunk tonight, or let's hang out?
Yeah. You know what? Talking about gratitude, for the most part, I've had a lot of my friends are pretty supportive of it. Maybe that's because they saw me when I was super drunk. But no, I was never really harmful to anyone else when I was drinking, but to myself I could be. It was and you do stupid things, and I'm not gonna rehash all that. But yeah, it was time for a change, and I'm grateful that it happened and when it did. And like I said, now I'm 2 years sober, super happy, killing the game. And, I just started a YouTube channel, just trying to get like you, my boys, and just develop that consistency and putting your best foot forward.
Do you feel like that alcohol was preventing you from doing these things?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. More so in the sense of just, I would always... We want to talk about that. Was something I used to do when I drink. I'd send people voice notes. Bro, you don't know what it's like to wake up the next day and you're like, what the fuck? I thought I sounded sober here.
Yeah.
And you're listening to these voice notes, and it was never like harmful or anything, but it was just like overly loving and just like I hadn't talked to this guy in a year or whatever. And it's like, hey, love you, bro. It's just kind of, I don't know, you want to call it cringe or whatever, but it was a facade. And I watched this video the other day by this guy Clark Kegley on YouTube or something. He was talking about toxic shame, and one of the things we do is we tend to self-isolate, and I was doing that quite a bit, and with alcohol. Like, on the surface, I don't think a lot of people knew how bad it was for me. That's the thing, because I kind of just drank alone, because when I would go out, I would drink too much, and then I would, probably make a fool of myself in some capacity. And it was always, I was fun for the first bit, sure, but then I would always take it too far. And so I just said, you know what, the heck with it. I'd get into the other stuff too, the I don't know, can you talk about the booger sugar, all that stuff, And that was kind of just the last year. But yeah, I'm grateful to be here. I'm grateful to be alive. And I think that change was definitely necessary. It was almost like a sign, I guess, and just flipped things around. And now I'm pursuing what I want to pursue. And, I get inspired by guys like you.
Uncapped fans, want to build your business credit and unlock new financial opportunities for your company? Check out Creditlift. They offer tailored credit building plans, expert advice, and tools to help your business thrive.
As a loyal listener to our podcast, you can get started through our exclusive link below. Strengthen your business credit and take your company to the next level today.
Thanks for supporting our sponsors.
And now back to the show.
Just keep putting their nose to the grindstone and keep pushing forward and killing the game. So.
Yeah. But and I bet like when you first decided, okay, I'm not gonna drink, like it was hard for the first few weeks, or was it something that you were so inspired that you're like, hey, like I just feel like a new person, like a rebirth?
Yeah. Well, before, as I stated, when I would try to do it before, it was kind of like that. But after reading this book, like I said, it was just a mindset shift, and it no longer appealed to me. It no longer held the same value. And still, I see friends and stuff and they're drinking, and part of me is maybe like, oh, that it could be, but I realize it's not. I think you tell yourself and you rationalize things, and you really shouldn't rationalize some things like, oh, I'm not that bad at drinking or whatever. But the fact of the matter was I was drinking way too much. Yeah. And now I feel better at 30 than I did probably at like 21, 22. So I just think the proof was in the pudding. And as the farther I got along with it, the more it edified the decision that I had made, which was to stop the drinking, because different areas of my life were improving. And I think another contributing factor is jujitsu has been sort of like my AA, I suppose. I didn't go to Alcoholics Anonymous or anything like that. And, all the power to those people. It would do what works for you. But I found that jujitsu was almost like that for me, in the sense of it's a close-knit community of men and women from different areas of life who all come together to get better as individuals, and not necessarily just on the mats, but in life in general. And we all kind of have each other's backs in that regard. So it's a really cool environment. Like you mentioned, our friend Jude, our mutual friend, he's a guy that I care about. I've grown very fond of him and Braden. They're two guys that came in fairly new. They had been at another gym with me before, but it was nice to have them sort of join the family, so to speak. And yeah.
How long have you been doing jiu-jitsu for now?
I would say probably like 7. I don't even know. It's probably 7-8 years. It's been a while. Dude. So I've definitely had my blue belt way too long. But
so don't screw around with this guy.
No, I joke, and I have 4 stripes on my blue belt now, but I feel very good. And honestly, I just love the process more than anything. And I think that's what you have to do with something like jiu-jitsu. And that's why I love jiu-jitsu, is because it shows you that consistency is where you're going to get results from. And developing that consistency and making sure you're regularly attending class and stuff like that. Because I always say jiu-jitsu wouldn't be very fun if you were just great at it from the get-go, right? It's that steady progression you see within yourself. And now this guy that maybe used to give you issues before, he's not so hard anymore. And, you just incrementally, you get better and better every day. And it's a really good way to exercise, I find, too, right? So there's just so many. I could go on all day about how much I love jiu-jitsu and the prominent impact that it's had on my life. So.
How'd you end up in the jiu-jitsu gym?
So I was actually about probably 15 years ago. I didn't do jiu-jitsu really. I went to this place called Suffer System, and
sounds like a rowdy place.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it was something. It was when I went there, it was owned by a correctional officer, I think, at the jail, and it was a changing of the guard, and then this other guy bought it, and then the other trainers kind of started to go away because they didn't really know him, and but it wasn't, they did jujitsu, but they never did gi jujitsu. It was kind of just, it was more combat. I would consider it more of an MMA gym than anything. Like, yes, there was grappling and stuff like that, but it wasn't, and we would have rolls and stuff, but it was always no gi. And so when I got into jiu-jitsu so it was called Munda Jiu-Jitsu. It was run by CLB at the time. I don't know if you know who that is, but he's a good guy. Well, some people might say he's a POS or whatever.
Ultimate
That's the
troll.
running joke, but
Yeah,
you know,
ultimate troll, that's for
I
sure.
have no qualms with CLB. He was good to me. So I wish him all the best. But then COVID happened, obviously, and when COVID happened, we weren't allowed to be in gyms anymore. So that's kind of why I say I don't know kind of where I'm at in terms of years doing jiu-jitsu, because I didn't have a curriculum or anything for a certain amount of time. I was just hanging out with friends of mine in a garage, doing secret open mats pretty much, where you just be in a buddy's basement or whatever and roll around. So, but yeah, then I got back into jiu-jitsu at Brasa. I like all the guys there. Ryan Bowen, Sen, he's one of my professors. There's a ton of guys there. I'm not going to name any names because not try to name all the names, but there's so many people there that are just, like I said, from different aspects of life that you can learn about. You know, we got a beekeeper there. We got dentists there. We got Sen, who I mentioned, who's a professor at Fanshawe, you know. There's just so many people there that you can learn from in life and in jiu-jitsu, obviously. So
yeah.
I
So,
really like jiu-jitsu.
Would you say jiu-jitsu is like one of those things that really taught you consistency? Like that's probably the biggest lesson?
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's the consistency. If you're not consistent, you'll notice it's kind of one of those things where you get FOMO because, you know, you bring in somebody like, say, who's not at your level yet, like a Jude. And then all of a sudden you take a month or two off and now Jude's wrecking you.
Yeah.
He's dom showing you. So it's just, you know, you always want to be there and stuff, but also it gets you comfortable with overcoming an obstacle all the time. And I've been a big proponent of stoicism, and there's a guy named Ryan Holiday. He's an author, and he has a book called The Obstacle is the Way. And I feel like that's what I love about jiu-jitsu. There's always an obstacle to overcome, and every day you get an opportunity to overcome that obstacle. And sometimes you are the nail, as they say, or sometimes you're the hammer. But being the nail isn't necessarily a bad thing. You know, you learn from that too. You know, you learn your defense and stuff like that. And, maybe I survived with a guy who normally just destroys me, and now I'm making it much harder for him to be able to act upon his will and just, you know, throw me around like a rag doll. So yeah, it's fun. The consistency is just, like I said, proof is in the pudding. It's
100%. So I know you said you already started a YouTube channel, right?
Yes.
So what is that about? Like, what kind of content can people expect on there?
So that's where it's kind of fun. So I just talk about sort of my experiences being sober and stuff like that. I write out scripts for myself, and then I try to I use like a teleprompter thing. So I'm just kind of figuring it out right now. But I've been using a lot of I'll use things like AI and stuff, not to write the scripts at all, but, you know, for ideas like the thumbnail and stuff like that. And then I'll go to Canva, and that's something else I've been working on is using Canva for things. I'm not a graphic designer. I didn't go to school for it or anything, but, you know, we live in the age of internet. You know, if you want to learn something, there's an app, there's something out there where you can learn it. There's a course. There's just a multitude of ways that you can learn these things. And I think, though, the best way to learn is to, you know, kind of follow in your guys' footsteps of just doing it. And then you figure it out as you go. And, okay, maybe we could have changed this little aspect or this little aspect, and that would make it exponentially better. Yeah. And then just, as I said earlier, you know, building the plane on the way down and sort of just figuring out, taking that leap, and then figuring it out from there.
Yeah. So is the content mostly then you kind of speaking to your audience?
Yeah, so it's kind of like just a face-on review.
Cool.
Where it's just on my face and I just talk to the camera and about my experiences, about things that I did for my mental health, because that was another thing too. So it wasn't just the drinking. Like, why was I drinking to that extent? You know, I didn't love myself, I don't think, is what it was. So it was, I read a lot of books on, you know, learning to, as, you know, maybe corny as this sounds, but, you know, learning to love myself and learning to.
It's not corny, brother, because trust me, like, I feel like it's true. A lot of people don't love themselves, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And, you know, we live in a society now where people are just, their mental fortitude is just shot. And it's scary now, you know, like, people, you know, it's a joke or something, you know, you get a lot of comedians and you'll see in the, oh, this isn't funny. And it's like, well, it's subjective, right? It doesn't, just because you didn't find it funny doesn't mean it's not necessarily funny. And if I saw a comedian who maybe I didn't like and somebody else was like, oh, well, they make me laugh, you know, they give me joy in my day. Who the fuck am I to be like, oh, well, why do you find him funny? He's not funny. Like, it's that's what I mean by it's being subjective and kind of, you have to zoom out. I'm not the main fucking character. I'm not the judge of who's funny and what's funny or whatever, you know? It's up to the people. And I feel like just being authentic is one of the things that works in my favor now. Is I'm kind of opening myself up and just being an open book, so that people who hopefully watch my videos, they won't feel like they're being judged or anything. They'll just feel like, oh, okay, he's our guy. He gets where we're coming from, and he genuinely wants to help, and he has a heart for that. And that's another cool thing about me getting sober, and why I kind of wanted to start the YouTube channel, is I have had people reach out and be like, hey man, I'm 6 months sober now, or hey man, I got into jujitsu because I saw you posting about it on Facebook, and now I'm here and I'm loving it and whatever. And that, more than anything that I would maybe get from a monetary standpoint, is more appealing to me than anything.
For
just
sure.
somebody reaching out to me and being like, hey man, you changed my life. That's really fucking cool to hear.
It's like building a community just by doing what you normally do. And
Yeah.
that's kind of the best part, because you're not forcing it. You're not acting fake. Your authentic self is bringing like the people you want to be around.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's something I found was really helpful, and I like sort of spreading what I've learned and what I've done for that. Like, I just posted a video. Well, I made a video today, and then I tried to edit it, and as I'm editing it, and you guys probably identify with it, I put the two clips together, and then the audio for the last minute is completely gone. I'm like, what is this?
I hate that.
Yeah, I'm like, bro, I did everything perfectly, and now you line it up, and so I'm rewatching it. I play it, and then just the audio cuts out of nowhere. I'm like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah.
So I'm starting to realize the complications of it too, and like maybe the aspects of it that I don't like.
Yeah.
But at least at first, you kind of got to roll with the punches, and then maybe eventually you can hire your own editor and all that stuff to do that stuff for you. But yeah, I'm having fun with it. And as I was saying, the video that I made today was about venting, and how I don't think venting is it's not very productive, and you think it's helping you because you get stuff off of your chest. And I'm not saying, you know, let it boil up inside you and then never do anything about it. But I think venting, it often makes you like relive those moments. Like if you have a job that you know, and something bad happened that day, and then you relive it and you talk about it and how much you hated it and everything, it brings you back to that moment. So I just talked about that one, how venting, I don't think it's necessarily a productive way to address your problems.
Yeah.
And
Interesting you say that. Like, I was listening to Joe Rogan. I think it was Abby Shire. I could be screwing up her name, but she was talking about how, like, you know how when you're young and you send your kids to like to a therapist. Not saying the therapists are bad or anything like that, but for the most part, they're just repeating their traumas over and over and talking about. And so it's very interesting that you say that, because it's like, yeah, you are reliving that. Like, how is that ever supposed to like escape you if that's all you're kind of told to talk about and focus on?
That's actually a good perspective. Yeah.
And yeah, like you hit the nail on the head there. And that's something that I think is wrong with a lot of the way that the world works now with mental fortitude and whatnot, is just people, and I go back to that comedy thing, you know, like, it's my fault that you put self-imposed, you know, harm to yourself because of a joke. Like, it was supposed to be taken as a joke. Why would you internalize that and hurt yourself? It doesn't make any sense, bro. Just, it's a joke. Take it as a joke. And if, you know, if not, then just don't watch it. Like, this is another thing now. So, like, the people who are, like, mostly complaining in these comment sections, it's like, by commenting on this, you actually probably put it in your algorithm. So you're triggering yourself by commenting on these videos that piss you off. And then it continues, and then you're just always just fighting someone in comments and shit. And it's like, don't do that.
Yeah.
Just you know, take things in stride. Realize that you aren't the main character, and you know, everybody has things that they could get offended about, but it's just like, why? How is that? That's what I say to people often. I say, how does that serve you? Was a big thing I learned from, I think, Stoicism or something, is how does it serve me? Is what I'll ask myself a lot of the time. And how does it serve me to get upset over this thing, you know? And because I remember, I used to be the same way. Like, I remember there was Anthony Jeselnik, he was a comedian, and he made a joke about cancer or something. And my mom had cancer. She beat it, fortunately, but it was, at that time, I was like, oh, you shouldn't joke about that. And now I'm of the notion, you should joke about that. Because if you can laugh at something so horrible, like cancer or whatever it is, and you can laugh in the face of it, you almost take it away. And so it goes back to that, what you were saying about trauma and people sitting in their trauma and stuff, where if you can sort of laugh at it and realize, oh, fuck, that is a fucked up thing that happened to me, but let's make light of it. You're untouchable.
Yeah.
You know? So that's just how I view that. And yeah, I don't think, just, you know, enjoy your life. Don't let things like that bother you.
I remember before you used to actually want to do comedy. Is that still something that's in the books?
So that's kind of what the YouTube is about too. Like, it's still gonna be, yes, development in regards to my sobriety and stuff like that too. But I like to think I'm a funny guy. You know, I tell funny stories, whatever it may be. And so I think sort of blending the two of them together is probably the direction that I'm going to take. But comedy is it's a hard game. A lot of people don't realize that, like stand-up especially. It's a completely different ball game. And I've done stand-up. If I was going to do it again, I'd probably want to go somewhere where it's more stand-up heavy city or something like that, you know.
So you've done a few stand-up shows in London?
Yeah, like years ago.
Oh, really?
And I did fairly decent, but I think it was just, and I don't mean to sound pretentious or anything, but I was able to coast on just being kind of a funny guy at a party and stuff like that. But when it came to actual stand-up, there was guys that had been doing it for years, you know, and they would write jokes all the time. And it's not to say that I didn't write jokes. I wrote jokes, but it's a lot harder than you think.
Yeah.
And because it's not like where you and I are talking right now and you're not really anticipating me to make jokes or stuff. Well, maybe you are because it's me, but you know what I mean? It's when you're on stage and people are like, make me laugh.
Yeah.
It's they almost hold you to a higher standard.
True.
So those jokes that you got to hit on them. And especially when you're not in a crowd of, you know, thousands of people, because if 500 people find it funny out of 1,000, you're gonna get a reaction.
Yeah.
And also laughter is contagious, right? So whereas when you're in a room with 15 people and 10 of them are comics, and it's like, this isn't I don't know if this is really helping me develop my game.
Yeah.
And, maybe I'll get scolded for saying that, but I don't know. I just feel like you need a platform where, we almost need like an actual comedy club or something where people are genuinely there to see comedy, not just, bars that have an open mic night or whatever. And, everybody's reading off a piece of paper, trying out new stuff. It's just...
do you remember your first bombing then? Sorry to bring you there, but
no, we're talking about comedy. Yeah. So I
no, not a murder.
Yeah, no, I
that was fucking funny.
I know what you're talking about. So anyway, the bombing thing, I don't remember a specific but there was a lot of times, like I would try a joke that was so niche or something, like about pro wrestling. I like pro wrestling still to this day. I know it's fake, but so is Game of Thrones with the fucking dragons, bro. Like, get off my case. It's a live performance, but yeah, you also have guys who are like watching shows about dragons and shit and lawyers and it's lawyers are real, but there's it's all scripted. So what like my thing's just as scripted as your thing is. Mine's just a live performance and yours is, cut, action, whatever.
Yeah.
It's the same shit though. It's a talent nonetheless, and it's an art form that I appreciate, and I appreciate the ability to be able to cut a promo and speak from the heart, from the chest, and listen to someone do this. I think that's what inspires me to sort of be that type of figure. As someone who's watched those guys growing up and watched guys take that microphone and just, speak from the heart and kill it. CM Punk's one of those guys for me. Like, he was somebody who always spoke from the chest. And I know he's a controversial character, but he was kind of the one who sort of was the catalyst for me kind of thinking that way, probably back in like 2011, 2012. I was like, oh. He uses the song Cult of Personality by Living Colour, and a cult of personality is someone who, it's like a cult leader type deal, whatever you want to. There a lot of people will follow them and take their word at value and stuff like that. And so I was kind of like, I like that. I could be a cult of personality maybe. And so, yeah, I like wrestling in that regard. I kind of went super passionate about wrestling. I forget what the initial question was.
It was the biggest bombing.
Oh yeah, biggest bombing. Okay, so biggest bombing. I can't think of any like specific time, but yeah, there was a few times where that would happen. And I also think I kind of alienated back to the drinking thing. I kind of alienated myself because after the shows I would drink a little bit too much, and I burned some bridges there too, saying, there was a female comedian, and I'll just be an open book. I don't give a fuck. She's very good. She's great at her job. She went to school for it and everything. And I apologize for it after, but in her set, she kind of joked about, how she's promiscuous or whatever. So I'm drunk after the show. Her dad's there, right? And I didn't even remember this. Somebody told me about it months later. And they were like, do you know what you said to her dad? And I was like, no. And I guess I said something along the lines of, oh, watch out, your daughter's going to try to bang me later or something. Like, to her dad. Like, what a piece of shit I was. And to hear this like months after it happened and not even know that it happened, and then somebody tells me that, and I'm just like, what the fuck? And then I messaged her and I apologized, and she's like, well, pretty much, and justifiably so. She's like, fuck you, dude. Like, she's like, I get it. Like, okay, I accept your, but yeah, fuck you. I don't really want to talk to you. Or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, you know what? In hindsight, that's completely fair. Who the fuck says that? Like, even if she has, promiscuous jokes or whatever, if that's her dad, like, Bro, what are you thinking?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
anyway, bless her heart. She's killing it. She's doing her comedy thing, and she's been doing it for a long time. And I don't know, it's just, that's one of those things where it's like, that was one of the catalysts too, even though it happened a long time ago.
Yeah.
That was one of the moments where I was like, oh, red flag.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah. So yeah, it's just, but that night I didn't bomb that night. I actually did pretty well that night, but yeah, there was other nights where, oh yeah, and that's how I got into wrestling, where I would maybe make a joke about, like, I remember one time I like body slammed a fucking stool and then elbow dropped it on the stage, and nobody there's a wrestling fan, so it was just dead silence, and I'm wooing like Ric Flair, like woo, and I hit an elbow drop on an inanimate object, and it's like, that's not really that funny if you're not. So I would say that's probably bombing, but yeah, just, I don't know. It's a different ball game, and it's consistency again. You know, if you're going to get into stand-up comedy or something like that, you have to go all in. You can't half-ass it and hope for results, and you can't. But that's another thing too I found with it, was a lot of people are pessimistic in that sort of realm, and they disguise it as nihilism, like they're being realists. But it's like somebody would start to have some modicum of success, and they would be like, oh, that guy, he's a hack. It's like, he's not a hack. He's the one who's finally doing something. He's making a name for himself, and now because he's not in London comedy anymore, he's not successful. No, he figured it out. He cracked the code. Give the devil his due. You know, he did what he needed to do. Or like one of my good friends, Jeff Leeson, he's a stand-up comedian. You guys were talking before the podcast about people that do crowd work. Jeff Leeson is one of the best I've ever heard at crowd work, and I feel like he's kind of more so my brand of comedy, is just offhand, like it's off the cuff, whatever. He doesn't write anything, but that's 20 years of experience he has, and you know, now he's starting to get his due, and it's really cool to see that in a friend, to excel after so many years of just being in the down and dirty of it. And now he's sort of getting recognized, because I'm not going to say he was the one who started crowd work, but it's definitely his, like, that was what he was known for. That's all he did, was just crowd work. And he would tie it all in at the end in such a brilliant way. So he'd choose like 3 or 4 people in the audience, and then sort of combine it all together at the end. And so he'd be like, and fucking the fireman over here is gonna help fucking Dave put out this fire that he started in the fucking woods, and thank God for this guy, because he's a paramedic, and otherwise these people would. And just the way he ties it to get everyone together at the end is so brilliant, and I've always admired that about him. So, but that's somebody who was consistent for a long time. And so I was just like, to this day, I'm still figuring stuff out, you know, and I'm going to try this YouTube thing, and we're going to see where it takes us. And I don't know, I'm just having fun.
It seems like you're combining like a hybrid model of like being funny and authentic, but also like really pushing people forward. Like, would that be right? Or
no, that's exactly it. Because I feel like when you can jest about the things that were fucked up in your life before, it can definitely. I'm allowed to swear on here. Okay. I mean, I've dropped a few bombs at this point now, but I just didn't want you to bleep.
Yeah, no, we're good.
But yeah, it's a great way to combine those two things. And I feel like if you can, there's another good comedian who I know, his name's Andrew Barr. I don't really know him personally. I think maybe I'd met him a couple times when I was doing stand-up years ago, but he was someone who I really admire now too, because he's sober as well, and he's just started getting sober, and he's been sober, I think, a year now, and he's gotten really successful on YouTube, like 86,000 or something.
Oh, wow.
Not YouTube, sorry, Instagram. I don't know if he has a YouTube channel, and that's what he does. He's just an open book, and he talks about like, oh yeah, I'd be fucking with cocaine up my nose, but he'd talk about all these things and how he'd spend an absorbent amount of money on drugs and alcohol and stuff. But now, and I think him being that sort of beacon of, okay, he was in a rut, he came out of it, and now he's funny as hell. He's even funnier than he was before. And that's another thing too, is sort of the rationale we tell ourselves behind drinking is, oh, I won't be as funny, I won't be as charismatic, all this other stuff. That's not true at all. I mean, you might have to work on it, but it's not necessarily that you're more confident when you're drinking. It's that you have less inhibitions. So you don't care about the end result. Yeah. Like, you'll go talk to that chick, even though you might not have normally talked to that woman, because you don't care if she rejects you because you're drunk. Yeah. Whereas it's a lot harder of a blow when you're sober and you walk up to a girl and you say, hey, whatever, and then she goes, yeah, or whatever. Yeah. Right? So it's you don't care so much about the end result, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're more confident or anything. Yeah. And so I think developing confidence and stuff like that is something that you can work on. Get out more and stuff like that. Like, that's another thing too, is people be like, oh, it's a mental health day, and then they stay inside and fucking don't do anything. Like, that's the opposite of what you should be doing if you're having a bad mental health day. Go for a fucking walk, do something, get out of your head. Try something that's going to work, meditation, whatever that is, to help you get better. And because that's another thing too. So I was diagnosed with like generalized anxiety and depression. I was taking medications for it and everything, and I was able to stop taking them because I needed time off work to get my mind right and everything. And they were saying, well, you gotta show us that you're trying to make a difference. I'm like, I'm doing, and this is another thing that's kind of messed up with the industry nowadays. It's like, I'm doing all the things, I'm just not taking the medications anymore. And they would be like, well, you need to take the medication. It's like, no, I don't. I'm gonna do this in another way. And not, and to people that take medication, all the power to them. If it's working for you, it's working for you. But I'm just saying, we don't look at the root cause as much anymore. We just go directly to the symptoms. Oh, I'll fix this if I pop this pill every day. And I don't think that's necessarily the case. We all experience anxiety in some capacity. When we start a new like whatever it is, if it's something you genuinely care about and you want to do well in, you're going to be anxious about that. If you have a performance, like a singer or an artist who does a performance, a stand-up comedian, and this is something you genuinely care about, you're going to have anxiety before you go up. It's a good thing. Yeah. In some cases.
It could get mixed up with like excitement.
Yes.
Right?
Exactly.
Yes.
Like similar.
Exactly. And yeah, I find that I was able to look at the root cause, which was the drinking and all that stuff. And then other things, how was the things that I was saying to myself, like how was I being productive with that, or was I being sort of self-deprecating, and which is going to hurt me more in the long run. And when you're talking about that too, with you're constantly talking to your insurance provider and trying to convince them how depressed you are. It's like you're starting to believe the narrative now too. Yeah. And that's what I think is scary now about the direction that we're taking, is we're not focusing on the root cause, and instead we're just going, okay, and you fill out a little thing with your doctor, and he's like, okay, guess you're this, here's some pills, and then those pills could end up messing you up even worse. So I just think we have to do more of our due diligence. If after you've looked at your diet, you've looked at your drinking habits, your binge drinking, whatever it is, and now you sort of realizing, oh, maybe my gut health isn't very good. Maybe that's why my brain health isn't very good. They say your gut's like your second brain, right? So there's a lot of other contributing factors that I think we should look at before we just go, oh, I'm depressed and this is my life now.
Yeah.
there's a way out, I think. And I'm not saying, but that's anyway.
Yeah.
But that's what I mean. Like, it's so many, like, if you have somebody who has cancer and you're like, hey man, we can beat cancer together. We just got to do X, Y, and Z. The person would be like, fuck yeah, I'll do all of that. Yeah. Mental health is the only thing where we go, no, they defend their right to have it, which is so odd to me. It's like, I deserve to, like
society enables
I'm
it.
depressed and I want to be depressed. And like, it's almost like, and then they get adulation from other people and they're in this echo chamber of like, oh, I'm depressed too. And you're depressed. And let's trauma bond together. Like that's some sort of productive process. It's not at all. Try to focus on what you love about yourself. Find gratitude where it lies. Like you have a kid, you have a family, whatever that is. Find gratitude somewhere. Stop trying to chase happiness. Happiness is a fleeting emotion, and it's for the most part, it can be unattainable. But one thing you can focus on in the here and the now is your gratitude and being grateful for where you're at. You're alive, you're standing, whatever that may be. Find the gratitude where it lies, is what I always say.
Yeah.
Because when you try to tie your happiness or whatever to a future date, like, oh, I'll be happy once this happens. So what the fuck are you doing in that time frame?
Mm-hmm.
Life's short, bro. Don't sit around being like, oh, I won't be happy until this happens. Enjoy every moment. Enjoy the present. Don't take it for granted. Because somebody just passed away right now, in the world, and you're still here. So, you can find gratitude anywhere. Chasing happiness, that might not be feasible all the time. Gratitude, you can find that most anytime, most anywhere, at any time.
Yeah, and like the power is within us.
Yes.
Like we don't understand how powerful a human being is, right?
Yeah.
Like to just get over that stuff, like you're saying, like you don't have to, like if you're depressed, like why is the first option throwing pills at them? Like why not just double down on understanding that they could probably beat this if they like take over their own mindset. They look at things differently, right? Mm-hmm. And it's maybe not through therapy and talking about your problems. Maybe it's about, like you said, your diet. What are you watching? Yeah. What are you consuming? Like that's all important, but those are all things that are ignored. But the power is within us. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Like you even hear cancer patients who they don't dwell on their cancer. Mm-hmm. They continue to live their life. They're very grateful with their life. They're living their life, and then somehow it's not there anymore. Yeah. Not all situations, but that just goes to show how powerful we are as humans. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Number one thing is exercise too. Everyone seems to like forget about it. It's like do something, right? Like that little bit of exercise will change your whole mindset.
Yeah,
completely. When you actually get yourself out there and like sweat a little bit, you start thinking more rational. Like you actually feel like you can overcome something. Why? Because you already overcame the first thing, which was the exercise of the day.
Momentum.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. So, and that's a big thing too, is momentum. And that's something, if anybody took anything from this, that's what I would suggest to people too, who are maybe experiencing some sort of mental health problems in their life is, go for a walk, be alone with yourself. Not like self-isolate, because that's not good, but you know what I mean? Like it's okay to be alone with your thoughts for a while. Yeah. And even I'm guilty of this, just like, the doom scrolling and stuff. Yeah. It can be, you look and then you're like, oh my God, 2 hours has gone by. And then people in the same breath will say they don't have time to work out. It's like, I mean, you do. Yeah. Just take, like, you don't have to do anything crazy either, right? Like I read a book, Atomic Habits. Yeah. And one of the things he talks about is momentum. And that's one of the things he brings up is that, fuck, I forgot where I was going with
momentum. Bringing up momentum.
Oh, yeah. So making it easier. Mm-hmm. And so don't, everybody has like New Year's resolutions, right? When they're, oh, I'm going to do this. And then they're like, I'm going to go to the gym 7 days a week and eat super clean. It's like, start small. My first thing was just stop drinking. Mm-hmm. Then I can work on the other things, don't eat as much crappy food and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And then you can develop from there. And so do something that makes it easier, builds the momentum. So maybe the first week, all you do is go for a 5-minute walk.
Yep.
and then the second week 10, and then, you know, so on and so forth. And you build that momentum until it eventually becomes a habit. And then it becomes much easier than to try and go from not working out at all to, oh, I'm going to do this 7 days a week. And then you get 2 days in and you're like, I still got 5 more days of this that I promised to myself. And then that's where you get that toxic self-induced shame where you're like, oh, I said I was going to do this, but now I didn't. And then you get back into that self-deprecating, and now you can't. You know, you're back to square one, and you're waiting until next New Year.
Reminds me of a book from Jordan Peterson. He was explaining in the book how he was dealing with someone who just was messy, really messy, filthy room, and the first thing he told him was just pick up a sock, one sock. You don't have to go clean your room, because like this task was hard for this individual. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. Go pick up a sock. And then next week, how was that? It was good. I picked up the sock, moved the laundry basket a little closer, but little steps, like you said, like that's really what it takes to eventually move momentum. Everything, right?
I agree.
Yeah.
And at this point, do you have like a 5 or 10 year goal for yourself of where you want to go?
I would like to get something going on YouTube and stuff like that. You know what? Honestly, you kind of called me on my bluff here. Like, that's something I should probably focus on, is what is my 5-10 year goal. Yeah, because right now it's kind of just, I guess, you know, developed a YouTube channel, but I guess you should have kind of a specific goal, right? Like, you know, 1,000 million subscribers or whatever.
Start small though, right?
Yeah,
the first
exactly.
Part is starting the YouTube channel.
Yeah, exactly.
As we said, like it correlates to literally what we just.
And then maybe, like, I don't know how often do you post? Like, is it often? Is it like?
So I just started it like probably 2 weeks ago.
Oh, literally!
But my logic was once a week.
Yeah, perfect.
For now.
Yeah.
And then eventually we can go from there. Or I can do what kind of you guys do, where you know, you'll have a few episodes lined up in the bank, and then you can sort of post them as time goes on. But you're never without a video to post. And that's kind of where I want to get to, is like I always have something to post on that day.
Yeah.
So whether I do it, you know, speaking of momentum, if you've done one video, why not shoot a few more? And then you can post those at later times or whatever.
Yeah, like but scheduling a time slot, changing the shirt, recording for like an hour or two in a row.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Like we started off every 2 weeks, and then like we picked it up after that, right? So it didn't happen overnight. So
what's your YouTube channel called, bro?
Yeah, plug that in.
I think it's just my name.
Your name,
Cooper,
that's it.
Cooper Hughes. Yeah.
I love it though. That's what it's about.
Yeah, it's like I said, there's only 55 subscribers right now, but it's
no, we'll definitely make sure to plug it all in.
I'm gonna add it too.
Cooper Hughes 1.
Cooper Hughes 1.
Capital COOPER.
Let's make that 56 now.
Oh yeah, we'll make it 57 after this, 100%.
So that's another thing though with YouTube. When you don't have a lot of subscribers, like it's even hard to like pull me up because I'm not in the like algorithm yet or whatever. So like even if you type in the name word for word, it's almost like I have to send you a link. So if you can't find it, don't worry, I'll send you a link later.
And we'll have the link up for everyone watching, of course, in our description. You know, that way they can know where to find you and stuff.
I appreciate that, my man.
Of course, brother. And one question we ask all of our guests is, you as a little kid, would you be happy of the man you are today?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe I would like to be, you know, I don't want to rib on my job because I like it for the most part. So I've kind of had a new perspective with my job in that it gives me the opportunity to talk to people all the time, even though it's about banking or whatever. It gives me this opportunity to speak with people and de-escalate situations and just be an ear to listen. And to be honest, I also like I like to make jokes and stuff, and that's not something you would typically get from a representative at a bank. But I try to be a linchpin. I try to be different. I don't want to be like everybody else and monotonous. You know, I have to make this job fun for me, and whatever you do to do that. But yeah, ultimately, I would be proud of myself.
Yeah.
Because I'm grateful. Like I said, I'm not a rich man by monetary standards by any means, but I think I am a rich man in life, and just I'm grateful for where I'm at. I'm happy where I am. I'm looking forward to change. I'm not going to deny that. I am looking forward to change. I would like to change some things up, but there's no better time than the present, and that's all I have. And so I never take that for granted. And I love my present life right now. And I'm sure younger me would be like, this guy's pretty kick-ass, you know. He's a jiu-jitsu guy, and he'd be like, yeah, this guy can beat up my dad. Even though my dad would technically be my dad, you know what I mean? But yeah, it'd be a cool time. And yeah, I had a dad who was like very like, and that was another thing. So like alcoholism has run in my family for a long time. And I think seeing how it was with other members of my family, I was like, I want to break this status quo of us always getting too involved with the booze. And I'm the first one in my family to do it like the earliest and stick with it. So I think I kind of hold that as a position of power, not like, and you know, I have younger cousins and stuff too, and I want to sort of be a role model for them that, you know, you can have maybe a hard time at the beginning, but you can come out of it on top. And that's kind of where I see myself now, is on top.
And at the end of the day, like, we're all like babies in society. We're so young. Like, we don't even know like what the next 10 years looks like, 5 years for us, right? It's just the fact that like, we got out of like those 20s are usually like the hardest, right? And we like, if we can all reflect and get out of like those tough times we're at, it's like, damn, like, where are we gonna go? Sky's the limit for all of us, you know what I mean?
100%.
Yeah. And I really respect you being very vulnerable, bro, because like it really shows that like you've healed in a way. You've accepted it. And now you're helping others. Like, I respect it. And thank you for being so vulnerable. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
No, it's massive. And even too, there's gonna be someone out there when they hear and they get to hear the story and everything like that, they're like, oh, now I can do it. And like I think that's always been what your model's based upon, right? So thank you for being able to educate people on that and like even inspire.
And even if it helps like one person, like that makes me happy that I made just such a drastic change in somebody else's life just by improving my own life. Like, that's cool to 100%. Do that. So that's kind of why I wanted to be on your guys' podcast. I like everything that you guys are doing. I really appreciate it. And I want to see you guys be super successful one day. And I think it's going to happen. You know, I think with your consistency and just doing it over and over again, you're going to get there. And when the times get tough, just remind yourself, you know, I love this. I enjoy doing this. And I think falling in love with the process is where you're going to see results, because eventually the side effect of loving the process is going to be success, whether that be monetary or whatever it is, you know. So
100%. And you too, bro, and we'll make sure to support, you know, your journey with YouTube, and we'll have you back, you know, 6 months, maybe a year from now, just to see how far you've gone with that, bro.
Sounds good. And now so you guys can kind of hold me accountable, like,
exactly, bro.
Even they will too, so.
We'll play this in 6 months. Where
once this posts, I'll have people messaging me, hey dude, where are those videos at? I'll be like, well, you know, you got me. I'm gonna get on it right now. So I think the consistency and just coming up with new ideas, fun ways to sort of introduce a struggle and make it seem like, you know, it you can beat it. It's it's doable. I think with anything. So
100%. Is there anything else you want to get off your chest to our audience there?
Plugins, anything you want to finish off?
Well, as I stated earlier, nothing off my chest. You know, as I said, venting. That's not the greatest. But you know, keep fighting the good fight. Enjoy your life. Be happy with where you're at. Not happy. Grateful. Find gratitude where it lies, and just take moments to be alone with yourself. And I don't mean just like playing video games for 12 hours. I mean, be bored. I think being bored is a big thing too. A lot of people are scared to be bored now. It's like, you know, you go anywhere, you can scroll on your phone. You don't have to, there's never time nowadays where you're just alone with your own thoughts. So I just say, you know, take that time to be bored, be yourself, and just learn from yourself and grow from there. Yeah. And just never take the present moment for granted.
Yeah, perfect. Awesome. I love that. Yeah, I guess we could conclude there. For all of you guys who've watched thus far, you guys, another treat for you guys, you know, with Cooper over here. And make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and follow all of Cooper's stuff. We'll have it on the description. That's it. Peace.
Thank you.